Hi BookTube, it's Amy. I'm back again with The Private Papers of a Bankrupt Bookseller by Will Y. Darling. The ongoing read aloud I've been doing here on my channel since I think last August or September when I started to slowly pick my way through this book here on my channel. But we have made it to page 171, beginning with a section titled The White Flag. Some days this book selling is a very torture of the devil. Today has been such a day. I have done nothing right. I burnt myself with my aluminum kettle this morning. 2 unpleasant and impatient demands for money were all that my morning post contained. A querulous old man has cancelled an order for a useless book without rhyme or reason, and I am landed with what will be indubitably more bad stock. A minx, I might have written, tormented me about some novel she had heard of at her tennis party, but she could neither tell me the publisher, author, title, or give me an indication as to its contents. You ought to know if you are a bookseller. Everybody's reading it just now. Hell. The world defeats me, and my head is both bloody and bowed. Or that probably is bowed there, bloody and bowed. That would make more sense for a head to be bowed as opposed to bowed. My fighting spirit is dead. I wonder what it is really like in the workhouse. Is it so bad after all? Epictetus was the crippled slave of a brutal master, yet from his humiliations he extracted serenity. Could I? Madness and Books is the section heading of the next section of the book. It is an unending amazement to me, the subjects of which men and women turn their minds. It is an unending privilege to the bookseller that he may know what men and women are seeking to know. I have my professor, for example, who is interested in madness, not the madness of the psychologist, but madness as it is exemplified in people. It is not his professional subject. He himself is an economist, but it is his hobby. Nietzsche's life story took him first in that direction, as it happened, and also because a boyhood friend about the same time developed GPI, and after a brilliant career is now shut away from the world in a strange world of his own. He lives in one of the paying parts of a very beautiful asylum nearby, and I'm told is very happy. At first he kicked against the pricks of confinement, but time and treatment have now won him to a peaceful acquiescence. He walks about the grounds entirely content with his idea that he is a monarch of all surveys. The great buildings are his, the doctors are his, doctors that are engaged by him. The beautiful gardens are laid out under his direction. The other inmates are poor mentally diseased folk who, but for his generosity, would have neither home nor care. He is completely happy in the possession of the idea of himself and his surroundings, and the hope of my professional friend is that so he will die undisillusioned. I almost envy him his paradise, although it challenges my Lord Chesterfield's dictum when he wrote, "A fool never has thought, a madman has lost it." Dryden sensed the nearer truth when he wrote, "There is a pleasure sure in being mad, which none but madmen know." There are no books on this subject that I can discover, and my friend is writing one, or rather compiling material for one. Nietzsche is a notable example, but there must be many others. In the pages of biography, Chatterton, the marvelous boy, would be found to be mad by a modern jury, and there was Nathaniel Lee, who is called the Mad Poet, being confined for 4 years in Bedlam. Cowper in his later days, and Gentle Mary Lamb are among the company, as too surely also was William Blake. John Clare's story, as told in the Cyclopedia of English Literature, Chambers 2 volumes, is a story to which the heart of a poor, embarrassed bookseller warms. Born of a working-class parents, his father a cripple and a pauper, John Clare began life as a ploughboy. 8 weeks' work gave him 6 pence for a month's schooling, and at 13 he had scraped and saved sufficient to buy a copy of Thomson's Seasons for a shilling. His shilling intact, he rose at daybreak and walked 6 or 7 miles to the nearest bookseller's shop. He arrived too early, and I think of it, book buyers and members of the book and other learned societies. He had to wait until the shop was open. On his return, he wrote his first poem, The Morning Walk. At 24, he planned to publish a book and sent out a prospectus at the cost of a laboriously saved £1. His book was not to cost more than 3 shillings, and although only 7 subscribers were secured, his venture led to his collection being published by a London bookseller under the title of Poems Descriptive of Rural Life and Scenery by John Clare, Northamptonshire peasant. The book was a success, and noble patrons for a while made his life a happy one. But like his Scottish prototype, Robert Burns, ill luck with his farm was his lot, and he became the prey of melancholy. He was removed to an asylum near London, which after 4 sad years he escaped. Liberty, however, was denied him, and he entered Northampton Asylum, where 20 tragic years later he died. His poem, What is Life?, is steeped in melancholy. And what is life? An hourglass on the run, a mist retreating from the morning sun, a busy, bustling, still repeated dream, its length, a minute's pause, a moment's thought, and happiness, a bubble on the stream, that in the act of seizing shrinks to naught. Turning the pages of the invaluable cyclopedia, I came to the name of Letitia Elizabeth Landon, who wrote under the initials L.E.L. Hers is no less a tragic story. Born in Chelsea, then more aristocratic than bohemian, she had the felicity of maintaining herself by her pen. At 36, she married the governor of Cape Coast Castle and went with him to Africa. There she continued to write, but who can tell what explained her end? 3 months after her arrival in Africa, she was found dead with a bottle of prussic acid by her side. Her last poem, the last verse of her last poem, is supremely simple and touching. She writes, "O fancy vain as it is found, or rather as it is fond, O fancy vain as it is fond, and little needed too, my friends, I need not look beyond my heart to look for you." Robert Tannahill, second only to Burns himself and the author of many lovely lyrics, was another ill-starred soul. Following on the rejection of his poems, he fell into a state of morbid despondency. He burned his manuscripts and drowned himself. De Quincey's name occurs in the same sad category, although his miserable existence dragged himself on to 70 years. Edgar Allan Poe, too, proved how high is the price the individual pays for what is joy to posterity. These names are mostly collected from the chambers, and I have passed them on to my friend. What good can come of his sombre study if it ever reaches print, I cannot imagine, unless it is a satisfaction to some of us similarly affected by the melancholy which has marked us for her own, to know of some other wayfarers in the same pilgrimage. The study of the lives of the writers is for me intensely interesting. Who among my customers knows about Barry Cornwall's luck? His real name was Brian Waller Proctor, and he was at Harrow with Peele and Byron. His verse is as readable as any other poet's of the second class. But that was not what I call his luck. Mr. John Kenyon was a wealthy gentleman who was fond of literary society. He had himself written, but that is not his claim in my regard. When he died, he left over £140,000 in legacies, part of the disposition of which was as follows: Elizabeth Barrett Browning, £4,000, Robert Browning, £6,500, Barry Cornwall, £6,500. What a subject for a short play! The evening in Italy when the news came to the Brownings, or the morning in the Temple when they heard of Barry Cornwall's luck. Here is the story of Mrs. Elizabeth Inchbald, more remarkable than her tales or plays. Born a Catholic, she ran away from home with a bandbox for her luggage at the age of sweet 16. In extremis, after many misadventures, she asked an actor friend, I've knocked the camera and I've lost my spot. She asked an actor friend, Mr. Inchbald, what would she do? Why not marry? But who would marry me? I would, was the dialogue between them, and their marriage was the upshot. She wrote her plays, she acted, and by prudence made and saved money. Her biographer in Chambers tells how she scoured her bedroom while a coach with a coronet and a pair of horses awaited her pleasure to take her on an airing. She kept her sister at great personal sacrifice, and on her death resided in a boarding house at Kensington. Unlike this modern generation, she declined to write her memoirs, although offered £1,000 for them, and when she died she bequeathed £6,000 to her relatives. She did not forget humble folk either. Her laundress and her hairdresser had £20 each. What a woman! She needed no vote, and did without a husband for years. Some modern women ought to write her life. I would sell 3 copies, I am sure, but in any case I would order 3 even if I didn't sell them, out of respect to her memory. This exercise has not been what it set out to be. I have to find books which deal with madness, and I won't make a sale out of what I have written. Still, it has been an interesting survey, and I have been happier tonight with the denizens of Bedlam than in the best society this place can offer. Many a man is mad in certain instances, and goes through life without having perceived, for example, a madness has seized a person of supposing himself obliged literally to pray continually. Had the madness turned the opposite way, and the person thought it a crime ever to pray, it might not improbably have continued unobserved. I quote from Dr. Johnson, and am grateful for the spread of his covering wings. I am not observed, let that suffice. Payable at death. The word is the most absolute one in the English language. It is monosyllabic in most languages, I am told, definite, exclusive, complete, curt. It is a subject upon which every writer has had something to say. In a standard dictionary of quotations there are over 200 familiar allusions to death, and yet it was none of these, nor even the event itself, that brought my pencil to paper. My friend and a customer has sought long and oft to induce me to insure my life, and I am still dwelling on how many annual premiums I must pay to secure £250 at 60 or previous death. To my creditors anyway, for me to die would be great gain, and why not? The merits of death have been steadily canvassed in this generation. Having been born under pressure of the befruitful and multiply having been born under pressure of the befruitful and multiply prophets, we were implored to die for our country by the white feather Piccadilly patriots. It is all very confusing for one who is seeking a living in an apparently death-desiring world. And let's see. Maybe one more section here, or maybe we'll just continue on to page 180, which is technically the ending of the book we're reading. There is the sequel in here, but we'll be done. The Private Papers of a Bankrupt Bookseller in just a couple of minutes here. So the next section here is titled Invoices, Statements, and what follows. Firstly, they come named 1 English hymnal, 1 Conrad's Youth. That is an invoice. Then later they come anonymously. 2 books, £1, 16 shillings. That is a statement. The next stages are terrible. These slips of paper stuck on the statements. This account is overdue. Your remittance by return will oblige. There are worse to follow. How I wish I would begin all over again. 1 English hymnal, 1 Conrad's Youth. If I could only get back to the invoice, if I could only see books as invocation again, how happy I would be. Bills, the bookseller's bugbear. I know a bank whereon the wild time blows. Idiot that I am, that quotation came into my head this morning, but I am calmer now. The bank has sent me a serious letter, and they are tired of time. They have no more of it for me, and they are wild. I am not happy, I am damned miserable, and I feel I can't go on. The publishers haven't been bad, really. There is no other business, I am sure, where they treat creditors with more consideration. But things are too tangled for any remedy I can see. I can sell up and close down, but how will that help? A sale of women's drapery may be an attraction for women, but who ever heard of a sale of books? I have ideas. I will just walk out and leave not a message to anyone. They can discover I have gone when they find the shop hasn't been opened for 3 days and the milk hasn't been taken in. The cat, I will put it out. It will find a home although its master missed one. Straying cattle are impounded. There are homes for stray dogs and cats. There are homes for fallen women. And where can fallen booksellers go? They have fallen too far to go anywhere, perhaps. Of course, I have no heart to blame anyone, least of all the bank. They did all, more than what was reasonable. I hadn't the capital, or not enough of it. People naturally take credit. I don't blame them either. I buy books I can't pay for. It would be cant to blame my customers for doing the same thing. I could never refuse the man who wanted to take some books and who said, "Send in the bill later." That young university blood bought too many books and has paid for none. That frivolous young widow ought to have paid for the solace she declared so often she found in books. I must read to forget. All very well, but she should not forget to pay for the means of forgetfulness. The waters of Lethe may be waters bought without money and without price, but my books ought to be paid for in cash. No matter. All day I have planned to face up an interview and ask for more. Ask for more? Who asked for more? Oliver Twist? I am no twister. I pull my wandering wits together. I will go tomorrow to see the bank manager. He is a good fellow, and 'twill all be well. He always paid for the books he bought. I think he bought them out of kindness. He wasn't a reader. He used to come in and say he wasn't in a hurry. He would just wait. He was spying out the land for Joseph and his brethren. Banks are all Jews. We are in the hands of the Jews. They are against us from the first. They are anti-Christian. It is not unreasonable to look among the anti-Christians for the Antichrist. I must get this all clear. I thought I would go on and come out all right. I have a connection. People do like me. I know they do. They come again and again. They ask my advice on books. If I go tomorrow and see the bank, they will give me time. They must. If they give me a little longer, things will improve. The book trade is like everything else. It is passing through a phase of depression. I can bring it round. I will work hard. I won't waste time writing or talk too much. I will be keen. I will change my windows every week and dust the place properly. My personal appearance, I will improve that. I won't do it. I won't do it. They have no patience for me. They can let my shop to that man next door, and he will fill my windows with knickers and hats, and God only knows what inconceivable muck. That's what this letter means. I wish I had the courage of Mr. Polly. He burned his shop and became a hero. He had a new start. I might do that, but I forget the details. There isn't a copy of the history of Mr. Polly in the place. Fancy Wells being the inspiration of an act of arson. He wouldn't believe it if I wrote and told him. Did he ever think of burning the Lamport Drapery Bazaar? I'm sure he did, but he had a lucky escape. His father was a cricketer. Why do I maunder on like this? Why don't I grapple with my fate and master my destiny? I could peddle books from door to door. If it comes to that, no, I am not going on. This will do for an end. I have tried enough, and I will try no more. Some die too young, some die too old. Still the saying soundeth strange. Die thou at the right time. This is the right time for me. Everything is in my hand. Here in my room, all is set out for the grand finale. There will be no fire. There will be no peddling books from door to door. There will be no seeking of another job. There will be no call on the bank tomorrow morning. I am calm, and they can say what they like when they find me. It is not difficult now. I am quite calm about it. I was going out for a walk, but I am not going out now. I have a mortal longing in me. I am fire and air, my other elements. I give to baser life. The stroke of death is as a lover's pinch, which hurts and is desired. It will not hurt me. The gas will. This knot, intrinsicate of life at once untie. Peace, peace. And that is the end of the first volume of The Private Papers of a Bankrupt Bookseller, where our cash-strapped and bankrupt bookseller has devolved into madness and has taken himself from this earth. Now, you might wonder if the bankrupt bookseller is dead upon publication of this 1931 work. How on earth does the bankrupt bookseller speak again? in 1938. And excuse me, I need a sip of my tea. You might wonder, how on earth does the Bankrupt bookseller speak again in 1938? And how does this compiled 1947 volume come to be? Well, we have an introduction here, which purports to be the Bankrupt bookseller's neighbor, the seller of women's clothes that our bookseller so feared would put knickers in his window. And maybe we'll continue on with this eventually. I think I'm going to stop my readings here for now and end this series here halfway through this 2-book volume. But I hope you've enjoyed this over the past few months. It is a bit of a morbid and solemn ending here. A little bit of casual racism in there, unfortunately, but I think we can attribute that to the general madness that our bookseller is experiencing here. And I mean, throughout, he's not the most, I guess, pleasant person you can well imagine. He was kind of a curmudgeonly bookseller, didn't have a high opinion of his, women customers, often prejudiced against many of his customers. And it's no wonder his bookshop didn't work out if he was so prejudiced against so many of his customers, and spent far too much time indulging in his own stock rather than trying to sell it. But maybe I'll take my bookmark out here since I'm done the readings for now. If I decide to come back and read The Bankrupt Bookseller Speaks Again here on the channel, I'll be able to find it easy enough. So there we go, 180 pages in what, 8, 9, almost 10 months, I think. It's been a little bit of a meandering journey here with this one.